All right, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Thursday morning, still here in California, about 11:22 a.m. January 2nd, 2025 is the date. Latest activity here on the earthquake 3D globe shows a 1.6 into California. Starting to light up out here in the last hour or so, noticing a few more earthquakes on the map. And generally, most of the activity today, Southern California, similar to what we've seen here yesterday with a handful of earthquakes out in the area today. Let's see what we got here for 2.5 and above across California. Most of that movement from yesterday there, including that 4.7 up in the Clear Lake volcanic field. So generally all microquake activity out here, but it is quite numerous around the region. San Andreas Fault here. A couple earthquakes from yesterday and also some from today as well. That's just off the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. The San Jacinto Fault Zone pretty active out here today as well. One earthquake into the Yorba Linda area. 2.3, fairly deep there at about 10 miles below the surface. So definitely a lot of uptick in terms of microquake activity here in the area. More of a broader scale event today. But nothing big happening yet. Bay Area of California pretty quiet. Where that 4.7 struck here yesterday, that of course is in a zone that is always seen earthquake activity out here. I know 4.7 showing up on the map as itself, just like a single earthquake looks a little odd, right? Since we haven't really seen a 4.7 out here in quite a few years. But it is all associated with the hydrothermal operations that are ongoing out there. It's just a process that is involved that creates earthquakes as well. There's been swarming out here since these operations have began. So this has technically nothing to do with an imminent volcano eruption, even though there's some heated areas below in a magma chamber. But this has nothing to do with an impending eruption, just earthquake activity. And as you can see here in the last last 24 hours, 120 earthquakes. And that's not because of the 4.7. That's just because of the ongoing activity out here across this region. Hydrothermal operations in full swing. We're talking about over 1,100 earthquakes in the last 30 days. So sometimes these earthquakes get a little bit larger. I don't know if they're testing a newer area. And maybe that's why we're seeing some larger activity. But yeah, it's too many of these geothermal plants out there. It's crazy. There's a lot. So where these areas are, you're going to see little earthquakes. Well, big earthquake swarms like that. So nothing of any abnormal activity. If we started to see a bunch of 4s in there all at once and some 5s, then I'd say, wow, this thing may be getting ready to pop. But this is all typical earthquake activity happening due to the hydrothermal operations there. Northern California, aside from that, pretty quiet. One earthquake off the coast of Petrolia from yesterday. Really nothing new going on here across the north. It looks like most of the activity centered down here south into the area of Southern California. Still seeing a little bit of movement there across Yellowstone. USGS reporting some of those earthquakes. Let's go take a look here and see what we got for Yellowstone overview. And yeah, those are going to be some super duper small quakes there outside the Yellowstone Lake area, so maybe right around here. But goodness, let's see here. Those are super small. I can barely see them here on the graph. I'm guessing it's going to be some of this activity here. I don't know about that. Maybe some activity in there as well, but none of that is really showing up across any of the other seismograph stations here. So it's kind of quiet out here. There's not a whole lot happening there at Yellowstone. I know there's been some social media chats out there about Yellowstone, getting ready to blow. The thing is, if that were the case here, we'd be seeing elevated earthquake activity. We would be noticing elevated inflation to a max level, and realistically speaking, that one's offline. The majority of these have shown a There we go. A more deflationary event across the area compared to years past there across Yellowstone. So every once in a while, I do like to check these graphs, but there's really nothing of any activity that tells me that we're inflating out here. You know, most of the movement or lack of movement shows deflationary. This is the trend. If this was getting ready to, blow up here, we'd be looking at this chart going up like this rapidly, because it's not going to take that many years for inflation to happen. When it happens, it really goes up. But right now, things are pretty quiet out there across Yellowstone. Every once in a while, a couple small earthquakes like that, but it's been a little while since we've had a decent earthquake swarm out here, and inflation is just not there. There's nothing going on there really across that area. Let's see, Nebraska earthquake from yesterday. A little bit of movement out in the Texas area as well, in the oil fields. As far as the last 24 hours here of largest magnitude, going to be a 5.5 from yesterday. Today, after midnight, 5-pointer down in the Papua New Guinea region. But that's about it in terms of larger movement. Over here in the Ethiopia Rift boundary, they're still seeing some earthquake activity over here. Couple this morning, quite a few 4s out there, 5 of them. And this has just been an ongoing ordeal here across this rift boundary. Now, these two plates right here, well, there's technically the Somalia plate, which is going to be this little extension. I'll show you guys here real quick. This is kind of a neat website. I'll make this just a little bit larger so you guys can see. Here is the Africa plate. The Great Rift Boundary right here, divergent boundary zone. The Somalia plate actually sits offshore as well. The USGS, I don't know if they show that on their site. They don't. But there is another plate out here that's listed, and that is being pulled apart. So this here is basically going to have a nice river through it, or an ocean down the road. This has been ongoing here for, I don't know how many millions of years in the developing divergent boundary zone. It's just an area of the plates here that are being pulled apart. And earthquake activity is, of course, going to be associated with that pulling apart. And then also you get volcano activity as well as you thin the crust there. Obviously, magma will swell into the area and produce volcanoes. The Rift Valley is growing at a rate of 1 inch per year through the upwelling of magma underneath the continental crust. Now, there's a little bit of information on here on this page. It's pretty cool, a couple diagrams and whatnot. But if you want a little bit more information on the plate tectonics and how it all evolves and where we're headed, this is actually a pretty neat web page here that shows some of that information. So I'll if I can remember, I'll just copy this and I'll add that into the description video for this update. So earthquake activity is going to happen. Volcanic activity obviously is a possibility as well. This isn't just going to open up in a blink of an eye. Plate tectonics do not work that way. For one, you would have to have an area for the plate to move off to really quick, as far as the Somalia plate. And there's just nowhere to put it because you got oceanic crust out here and there's not an empty spot. So it takes millions of years here for this activity to take place and transpire to produce, areas of, new oceans here, and could create some mountain ranges out here across the western area. So it's interesting, no doubt. But nothing big going on there for now. More than likely, if anything does take place, it'll be some type of volcano activity or increasing volcanic activity there around that region, because there's a number of volcanoes across that rift boundary. What else we got? Some movement up in China a little bit. A couple smaller earthquakes from yesterday and today. Glance at the earthquake 3D model here. Shows some threes out there across New Zealand again, quite active. Mixed bag of deep and shallow activity out there. But that's just been the case here for a little while. Nothing big going on. Japan area pretty quiet. So we got that newer activity here across the Papua New Guinea region. Let's see. Mediterranean area here, some 2s and 3s. Really nothing big going on. The Atlantic Ocean quite as well. And I'd say it's a typical day here. The planet here is a very active, geologically speaking, here in terms of plate tectonics and the convection and whatnot underneath the area. And the deeper down underneath the crust creates all these movements here at the surface called plate tectonics. So it's just always moving around out here. We're always having earthquakes, and it may not feel like it. Some of them are felt, but if we look at the last 30 days here of earthquake activity across the states, and this is just the activity that they're reporting. 6,000 earthquakes in the last 30 days. One would think, wow, what's going on here? But this is typical. We're always moving out here. Even the intraplate areas, oil fields here. This is somewhat something new, but nothing of abnormal activity. I looked at the comparison here, 2024 versus 2023 in terms of earthquake activity. I like to, compare years. Well, this last year, 2024, we've seen 1,500 earthquakes less than what we received in 2023. So last year, 2024, was definitely a less than elevated earthquake activity event. 1,500 earthquakes of 4.5 and above. Not talking about these smaller ones, but it's a big number. So we've seen a lot less last year than 2023. And 2025, who knows, right? We'll just have to watch it and see how the year plays out. Got one earthquake out around the Long Valley area, super volcano there in California. Yes, California has a number of volcanoes there, including Southern California down here across the Salton Sea area. The little spreading center down here, the Brawley seismic zone. Salton Buttes. Let's see here. Everything's probably normal right now. I think we'd hear about it on the news since everyone's got a cell phone, everyone's connected to social media. We would know about something going on. But if you look at the West Coast volcanoes out here, everything is, I would say, hunky-dory. I don't use that word too often, but that's just the thing I can think of right now. Up around the Alaska area, a little bit of news on the Mount Spur up there. You're seeing a little bit of elevated shallow earthquake activity around the summit region. That's why it's at a yellow and advisory. Latest update here put out yesterday. Small shallow earthquakes near the summit of Mount Spur continue. No unusual activity noted there across the surface, but obviously it looks like this may be headed towards an eruption with the activity there confined at the summit region. There is a fairly recent image of the beautiful volcano up there, Mount Spur, snow covered. So obviously when this, if it does erupt here, all that snow's got to go somewhere, right? So it's going to melt and head downstream. But right now, nothing of any unusual activity out there across that region. And that goes for, like I said, the majority of the Cascades. Kilauea volcano still in eruption stage here. Let's check out some of the webcams. Still spewing out some lava there out of that crater wall fissure event that's been ongoing here for about, 4 days now, 5 days, I think, maybe a little bit longer. There was a couple pauses there, and this is the longest eruption event here so far with this renewed activity, and it could continue for a little while here. There's been quite a bit of inflation in the region, and this, it could go on for months pending we don't get any blockage down below. So we'll check back on that. Nothing major going on as far as earthquake activity across the area for now. Just some free flow of magma from the areas below up to the surface to fill up the lava lake area of Kilauea volcano. Let's see if anything else is happening around the globe here. Just kind of somewhat of a quiet day. nothing major happening yet. Space weather, definitely a lot quieter in the last 24 hours compared to the previous. We did see a G4 class storm there. Not last night, but the night before, early yesterday morning as well. Things have calmed down in terms of the KP index. These guys at the Space Weather Prediction Center still have not fixed their imagery. Not for sure. I'm sure they know, right? A lot of folks I've been seeing on social media mentioning what's going on with the aurora forecast. How come it's still offline from the 20th or from the 31st of last year? So maybe a glitch in their computer that or the software that may need to be looked at. I don't know, but this is not correct. We just have to go by what the KP index is telling us right now, and that's fairly minimal. Although some of it looks like it's up around the 3 to 4 range or higher. Well, this is going to be from yesterday's events here. But looking at this data in the last couple hours here, still shows somewhat elevated activity. But don't really know because the aurora forecast there is offline. Not really expecting too much. I guess a little bit of residual energy there for tonight's aurora event. All right. Flaring activity. Some C flare activity, it looks like. A C 3.2. Overall flare threat right now looks like it's diminishing a little bit with only a 10% chance for X flare, M flare at 75, C flare around 99% chance or so. A number of sunspots definitely facing the Earth here, but hard to tell in terms of complexity. Magnetic structure here, or magnetogram image is offline. A lot of stuff going offline here recently. What's up with that? Also, a number of coronal holes that are currently facing the planet right here, number 5 and number 4. Latest image here shows that it is directly facing the Earth on the Earth-Sun plane. Now, we should see some amplification there in terms of solar storming in a couple days. That normally enhances the aurora activity once a high-speed solar wind stream arrives on the planet. So we'll check back on that, but overall, kind of just an average day. Anything coming close to the planet in terms of asteroids? Let's see here. 87,000 miles. That's pretty close, but we had one early last year that came within about 11,000 miles, and it missed us. 17-foot car-size asteroid. That's for today, but aside from that, pretty far in distance terms for some of these larger ones for now. Storm Prediction Center, nothing big time going on in terms of severe weather. Now, day 4 here, that's when a lot of the cold air is going to be dipping down into the area of Louisiana, Arkansas region, eastern Texas. Got some severe weather lined up as we head towards the end of the weekend and early next week across this area. We'll show you guys here on the weather model map. Put this into motion, and here comes the cold air. Notice the blue lines dipping further south and south, indicating that cold air. California, we got one more rainmaker out here for the weekend, or late Friday into Saturday, and after that it dries out. But look at this right here, man. We're going to bring in some severe weather, it looks like, across this area. Snow on the north end of that low pressure, and ice. Ice out there. Going to be a dangerous day as we head into the end of the weekend, early next week for that area. And it's going to be a pattern of similar events as we head into middle of next week, with that cold air dipping even further south here towards the Gulf of Mexico. Talking about maybe some ice down there around Houston, maybe even some snow. Going to have to watch that there because they get it on occasion, and it happens when we see these large, deep troughs here. That is associated with a high pressure off the west coast here, keeping everything way up north. Then the jet stream will come back on the side of that high pressure, bringing that colder air down from the north. And in this case, it's a big chunk of land that's going to be well below average out here. Good portion here. Look at Texas and this area. So we got that to deal with, and then we put this back into motion here, and things are still a lot of cold air left over from this event. More snow around Kansas area, maybe Oklahoma, and man, that cold air just wants to sit out here. So hopefully you guys want a cold January, because it's coming, at least for you guys or east of the Rockies. Here in California, it looks like we're going to be average or above average with less rainfall. That's not good. The 6 to 10 day outlook. We look at the temperature out here. Obviously, a lot of colder air sitting in California. Above average, way below for rainfall. I don't think we'll see any rain after this storm that's coming in tomorrow and Saturday. Going to dry up, and January is one of our wetter months out here, so this is depressing to see. Above average precipitation here across portions of northern plains and Montana area. This is for the 6 to 10 day outlook. And if we look at the 8 to 14 day, well, man, that's roughly about the same. Cold air out there. East of the Rockies, above normal precipitation again across this area, and well below for California and the West Coast. I am not liking that one bit. All right, I am going to jump off here, folks. Things are stable right now. One little earthquake in China Lake, one in Southern California right now as well. These are very small earthquakes. Let me see, China Lake area. That's got to be this this 1.3. That's the earthquake that's coming in here. Little spike, but also we got another one coming in there in Barrett. That's going to be down here across this area. Nothing showing up yet on the map, but things are, an area to watch definitely seems to be California, Southern California specifically around this region. Last couple days has seen a broader earthquake event in terms of elevated magnitude or multitude of quakes. Nothing in terms of larger magnitudes, but there's a lot of microquake activity out here stirring up, and that's a sign that things are starting to move here across this area. So we'll watch Southern California, see how it plays out today. Have a good one, folks. I'm out of here. Catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening. Stay safe.